Watkins, Minnesota. A small, quiet town where people left their doors unlocked and children grew up feeling like the world was safe. But on a quiet August night, that feeling disappeared forever. A 5-year-old girl was taken not from the street, not from an unknown place, but from her own home. From the bed she had slept in, believing it was protected. This is not just a story about a crime. This is a story about trust and the horror of when that trust is betrayed in the most brutal way possible. This is the story of Elena Jean Ertl, Watkins, Minnesota. A small town in the heart of the Midwest. Life here was peaceful. A place where people knew their neighbors and children grew up with the feeling that the world around them was safe. The danger seemed distant, something happening somewhere else. Late summer had quietly set in. The night air was warm, the windows were open, and the houses were sinking into darkness, one by one, as families fell asleep. No one suspected that everything would be different by morning. Before sunrise, the sense of security disappeared. A 5-year-old girl disappeared, not from a dark street or a stranger's van, but from her own home, from the room where she had fallen asleep, believing she was safe. When morning came, it brought a shock that shook the entire city. The silence turned to panic. Familiar routines were replaced by fear, and one question began to spread everywhere. How could this happen here? Before her name appeared in the news and court documents, Elena Jean Ertl was just a little girl, full of energy, curiosity, and confidence, born on October 31st, 2010, a Halloween baby. Her family described her as affectionate, playful, and full of life, one of those children who laughs easily and loves sincerely. Elena loved animals. She loved music. She sang even when she didn't know the words. She loved animations, costumes, and most of all, princesses. Her favorite was Elsa from Frozen. She carried her favorite pink blanket everywhere, a little corner of security without which she couldn't sleep. She had just graduated from preschool and her world was still simple. Built from routine, imagination, and the people he trusted most. Mornings meant waking up at home. Nights meant being tucked in and kissed goodnight by her parents. There was no sense of danger in her life. She didn't know that the world could be cruel. For her parents, Elena was everything. The center of their daily lives, the reason for every routine, for every plan, for every dream. They watched her grow, how her character was shaped day by day, without realizing how little time they actually had left together. To the people of Watkins, Elena was a familiar face. She wasn't an unknown child. She was the little girl from the parks, from the local events, part of the town itself. And that's what makes what happened next so hard to take in. August 19th, 2016, begins like any other summer Friday in Watkins. That evening, Elena's father was at a local softball game. The lights on the field illuminated the night as people talked and laughed, and the buzzing of summer insects could be heard all around. Among those present was a man everyone thought they knew. Familiar, trusted, a man no one would suspect. After the match, a small group stayed for a while to chat and rest. Later that evening, some of them moved into the family home. Inside, everything seemed normal. Elena had spent the day like any other 5-year-old child, playing, laughing, and moving through a world that seemed safe and predictable to her. In the early hours, fatigue finally overcame her. Around 2 a.m, her mother carried her to bed. She was already asleep. Her pink blanket was wrapped around her, a kiss on the forehead. The door quietly closed. Downstairs, the adults stayed awake. Elena's father and his friend talked quietly as the night wore on. Somewhere in those hours, everything changed. Trust was broken in the most horrible way possible. A line that should never be crossed was crossed in a home that was considered safe. While the rest of the house slept, Elena was taken from her bed. Around 8 a.m, her parents woke up and discovered something that instantly ruined the feeling of a normal day. Elena was gone. But that wasn't all. The family's white 2002 GMC Sierra pickup truck was also missing. And most disturbing of all, Zachary Todd Anderson, a longtime family friend and colleague of Elena's father, was also missing. Panic set in immediately. Elena's parents called the Meeker County Sheriff's Office. The police began a quick search of the area, yards, streets, wooded areas. The hope was that a frightened child might be found close to home, but it quickly became clear that this was no ordinary case of a missing child. Everything pointed to abduction. Shortly before 11 o'clock, an Amber Alert system was activated throughout Minnesota. Elena's name and photo were spread everywhere. The reaction was massive. State and local officials, volunteers, and trackers began a search. Investigators focused on the most important clue, the stolen pickup truck. Tracking a cell phone left inside showed the vehicle traveling north toward Cass County before the signal disappeared. With each passing minute, the fear grew. Back in Watkins, neighbors, friends, and strangers gathered, organizing search parties. Some searched roads and forest paths. Others simply stood silently and prayed that Elena would be found alive. As the afternoon progressed, the tension grew heavier. Helicopters circled over the fields and forests. Then came the breakthrough. Around 2 p.m., a dispatcher in Cass County received a call from a man claiming to know where the pickup truck and possibly Elena was. The caller was Zachary Anderson's father. He said his son had asked permission to go to the family cabin near Motley, Minnesota. The trail led the investigation hundreds of miles north. When police arrived, they found the pickup truck abandoned in a shallow ravine near the cabin. It looked as if someone had deliberately tried to hide it. It was quiet inside the cabin. On the kitchen table lay a rifle, ammunition, and a note that looked like a suicide note. Later that afternoon, officers with dogs found Anderson in a marshy area behind trees. He was unarmed and did not resist. When asked about Elena, he replied chillingly, "What girl?" The teams continued on, deep into the dense, swampy forest. The terrain was difficult. Mud, water, and fallen branches slowed every step. Then, among the trees, they found something familiar. Elena's pink blanket, the same blanket she had slept with the night before. Partially submerged. Just minutes later, investigators found her body, hidden under water and branches. Her worst fears had come true. Elena was murdered. The coroner later determined that her death was caused by homicidal violence, including strangulation, trauma, and sexual assault. The case immediately turned into a murder and sexual assault investigation. Anderson was taken into custody at the scene. Investigators began to retrace his every step. Each new detail revealed more of the horrific decisions he had made. For Elena's family, it was devastating. The entire town had clung to the hope of a miracle, but the reality turned out to be much more terrible. After the body was discovered, all attention turned to Zachary Todd Anderson. Investigators carefully documented everything: the swamp, the cabin, the blanket, the vehicle, and all the evidence associated with it. Using GPS data, phone records, and witness statements, they reconstructed the entire timeline. It became clear that Anderson had taken Elena from her home, driven her to the cabin, and committed the crimes that led to her death. On August 23, 2016, he was formally charged with first-degree murder, kidnapping, sexual assault, and theft of a motor vehicle. The investigation was extremely detailed. Every trace was checked. Each witness was questioned multiple times. The combination of physical evidence, digital tracking, and his own statements left little doubt about his guilt. For Elena's family, the arrest brought both relief and unbearable pain. Relief, because the perpetrator was already in custody. Pain, because the truth of what happened was unimaginable. The Watkins community rallied around the family as the prosecution prepared its case. Ultimately, Anderson pleaded guilty to the most serious charges. In March of 2018, he was sentenced to life in prison without parole, the maximum sentence under Minnesota law. But for Elena's family, no sentence could take away the pain. In the years that followed, they continued to talk about her as she was, a cheerful, loving, and innocent child. A memorial statue of Elena was placed in McCarthy Park, small, smiling, surrounded by flowers. People often leave toys, balloons, and flowers there. A silent memory of a child who never got a chance to grow up, but whose laughter and spirit continued to live on in the city she called home. The case of Elena Erdl remains one of those stories that changes an entire community forever. Because sometimes, the scariest thing isn't the stranger in the dark, it's the person everyone trusted. If this story touched you, like the video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. We will continue with more real cases that should not be forgotten.